Good evening. I'm Henry, and if you have not been following the most consequential military conflict of this decade, tonight is the night you need to start paying attention. It has been 12 days since the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes on the Islamic Republic of Iran on the 28th of February 2026, triggering a war that has already reshaped the Middle East and is now threatening to reshape the entire global economy. Here is why this matters to you, wherever you are watching from tonight. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow channel of water connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, carries 1 in every 5 barrels of oil shipped anywhere on planet Earth. As of this morning, it is effectively closed. Iran has mined it. Tehran has vowed that not even a single liter of oil will pass through to what it calls its enemies. And today, the International Energy Agency, an alliance of 32 nations, announced the largest emergency oil reserve release in recorded human history, 400 million barrels, in a desperate attempt to keep fuel flowing to the world's economies. Oil prices have already approached $120 per barrel. Airlines are suspending flights. Over 45,000 British citizens have fled the Gulf region. 40,000 Americans have been repatriated by the U.S. State Department. And in Iran itself, more than 1,300 civilians are confirmed dead, tens of thousands have fled Tehran for the countryside, and a new supreme leader, the son of the man killed in the opening U.S.-Israeli strikes, has just been named. This is not a regional skirmish. This is a war with global consequence, and tonight we break down the 4 most critical developments you need to understand right now. Our first major story tonight: Iran is no longer fighting only Israel. Tehran has now opened what analysts are calling a multi-front retaliation campaign, deliberately targeting the Gulf Arab states that host American military infrastructure. Since the war began, Iran has fired nearly 3,000 missiles and drones across the Persian Gulf region, a staggering figure confirmed by the Asharq al-Awsat newspaper, citing Gulf defense officials. The targets have been deeply alarming. Saudi Arabia's defense ministry confirmed early Wednesday that it intercepted multiple ballistic missiles aimed at Prince Sultan Air Base, a major joint U.S.-Saudi military facility, and also destroyed drones heading toward the kingdom's vast Sheba oil field, located deep in the empty Quarter Desert. That oil field alone processes hundreds of thousands of barrels per day. The United Arab Emirates, home to Dubai, one of the world's great aviation and financial hubs, reported that its air defenses fired throughout the night on incoming Iranian projectiles. Emirati officials confirmed that Iranian attacks have now killed 6 people inside the UAE and wounded 122 others. This is significant. The UAE had long maintained a cautious diplomatic balance with Tehran, and Iran's decision to target it directly signals a strategic escalation, an attempt to destabilize not just military targets, but the economic engines of the entire Arabian Peninsula. In Bahrain, where the U.S. Fifth Fleet is headquartered, sirens sounded before dawn on Wednesday, warning of incoming Iranian fire. Just a day earlier, an Iranian strike hit a residential building in Manama, Bahrain's capital, killing a 29-year-old woman and wounding 8 others. And in Iraq, technically a non-combatant, drone strikes targeted military bases inside Baghdad International Airport late Tuesday, with some landing near U.S.-led coalition logistics positions, according to 2 security officials speaking anonymously to the Associated Press. Why is Iran doing this? The strategic calculation appears clear. By spreading the war's pain across the Gulf, targeting energy infrastructure, American bases, and civilian populations, Tehran is generating maximum regional disruption. It is trying to raise the cost of this conflict high enough to force Washington and Tel Aviv to the negotiating table. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf, made Tehran's position unmistakably clear on social media Tuesday, writing, "We are definitely not looking for a ceasefire. We believe that the aggressor should be punched in the mouth so that he learns a lesson. The question now is whether those punches reach further than anyone has yet anticipated." And that brings us to what may be the single most economically dangerous flashpoint on Earth tonight: the Strait of Hormuz. Imagine a bottleneck in the ocean, just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, through which flows 1/5 of all the oil consumed on planet Earth every single day. That is the Strait of Hormuz. And tonight, it is a war zone. Iran made good on a threat it has issued for decades but never acted upon, announcing it would block the strait and attack any vessel attempting passage. And the attacks are not just rhetoric. This morning, 3 commercial cargo ships were struck by projectiles in and around the strait. A cargo vessel was confirmed ablaze after being hit, according to reports from One News New Zealand and confirmed by multiple wire services. A drone strike also hit fuel storage tanks at Nomani port near the strait's entrance. The United States military responded by striking 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels in the strait on Tuesday, releasing unclassified footage of the strikes. President Trump simultaneously sent a warning to Tehran via social media, threatening to strike Iran at a level never seen before if it placed mines in the channel. In a characteristically contradictory statement, he also said he'd seen no reports of Iran actually planting mines, even as the Pentagon confirmed its forces had just destroyed vessels in the act of doing exactly that. CNN's military analysts warned Tuesday that Iran only needs to be lucky once. A sobering reminder of how asymmetric this threat really is. Iran does not need to sink a U.S. aircraft carrier. It only needs to credibly threaten the commercial shipping industry enough to keep tanker companies and their insurers away. And that is already working. Saudi Aramco CEO Amin Nasser confirmed that the oil giant is now rerouting its tankers entirely away from the strait, relying instead on the east-west pipeline, which he said would reach its full capacity of 7 million barrels per day this week, delivered to the Red Sea port of Yanbu. If this takes a long time, Nasser warned, it will have a serious impact on the global economy. The markets heard him. Oil prices climbed toward $120 per barrel before pulling back slightly as the IEA's reserve release was announced. 32 member nations of the International Energy Agency agreed today to release a historic 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, the largest such release ever, in a direct effort to calm prices and signal to the world that allied nations have a supply buffer. It is, in effect, an economic war measure. The story at Hormuz is not just about oil. It is about whether the global economy can sustain a prolonged blockade, and how far the United States is willing to go to reopen those waters. While the world's attention has been fixed on the Persian Gulf, a second front has quietly intensified, one with devastating humanitarian consequences. Israel has resumed large-scale strikes on Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah positions that have been launching missiles into northern and central Israel in coordination with Tehran. Tonight, Al Jazeera correspondent Zaina Koder reported live from the site of an Israeli airstrike on a residential building in central Beirut, the second strike on a densely populated civilian neighborhood in the capital within 24 hours. At least 4 people were killed in that strike, including civilians. The Lebanese Health Ministry reported that multiple Israeli strikes across southern Lebanon killed 7 more people in the early hours of Wednesday alone. The casualty toll in Lebanon since the start of the Iran war is now more than 480 dead, according to Lebanese officials. Among those killed this week, a Red Cross member who died after an Israeli strike hit his emergency rescue team while they were responding to an earlier attack. A paramedic affiliated with a medical organization in southern Lebanon was killed while treating the wounded, and a Lebanese soldier, bringing the total number of military personnel killed to 5 since the conflict began. Israel says it is responding to coordinated rocket and missile fire from Hezbollah. ILTV News reported that residents of central and northern Israel endured a restless night Tuesday as repeated air raid alerts were triggered by Iranian and Hezbollah launches. Israel's military says it is working continuously to intercept incoming fire. The United Nations Refugee Agency reported Tuesday that more than 667,000 people inside Lebanon have now registered as displaced, an increase of over 100,000 in a single day. More than 85,000 people, mostly Syrian nationals, have crossed from Lebanon into neighboring Syria in the past week. The international community is alarmed. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Tuesday that it clearly appears there is no joint plan to bring the U.S.-Israeli war to a swift end, a stinging public criticism from one of America's most important European allies. Perhaps the most historically significant development of this entire conflict came on March 8th, and its long-term implications are only beginning to be understood. Iran named a new supreme leader. Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in U.S.-Israeli strikes on the opening day of the war, was selected by Iran's assembly of experts and announced on Iranian state television. He succeeds his father as the highest authority in the Islamic Republic, the commander of its armed forces, and the arbiter of its nuclear program. The appointment is extraordinary for several reasons. Mojtaba Khamenei is not an Ayatollah. He holds the rank of Hojjatul Islam, a rung below. He had long been considered an unlikely successor even in peacetime. And yet, in the fog of war, with Iran's political establishment under bombardment, the clerical body moved swiftly. His selection has been described by analysts as the Islamic Republic's way of signaling, "We are not broken, we have continuity of command." Some Iranians celebrated in the streets, according to Al Jazeera footage. Others, speaking anonymously to international reporters, expressed fear and uncertainty. President Trump's reaction was characteristically blunt. He told reporters he didn't believe the new supreme leader can live in peace. It was a remark that sent immediate shockwaves through diplomatic channels, interpreted by many as a direct threat against Iran's new head of state. Meanwhile, Iran's senior security official Ali Larijani posted a direct warning to President Trump on social media, writing, "Even those bigger than you couldn't eliminate Iran. Be careful not to get eliminated yourself." That statement, given Iran's documented history of alleged assassination plots against American officials, is now being reviewed by U.S. security services. At home, the Trump administration faces a growing bipartisan unease about the war. Following a classified intelligence briefing on Tuesday, Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen of Nevada told reporters, "I'm not sure what the end game is or what their plans are." She was not alone in saying so. The United States has now confirmed 7 service members killed and 140 wounded since fighting began. 108 of the wounded already returned to duty, according to the Pentagon. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, said U.S. forces have struck more than 5,000 targets inside Iran. So where does this go from here? In the next 24 to 72 hours, the eyes of every intelligence agency on Earth will be watching 3 specific things. First, the Strait of Hormuz. Will Iran escalate its mining campaign? Or will the U.S. military strikes on those 16 mine-laying vessels serve as a deterrent? Every tanker captain, every insurer, and every energy minister on the planet is waiting for that answer. Second, the new supreme leader's first major policy signal. Mojtaba Khamenei has inherited a country under heavy bombardment, with a defiant military establishment and a population seeking shelter. Will he authorize any back-channel diplomacy, or will he double down on his father's doctrine of resistance? Iran's parliament speaker has already said a ceasefire is not being considered, but the position can change quickly under sufficient pressure. Third, whether America's allies hold. Germany has already expressed concern about the absence of an exit strategy. British flights are suspended across the region. The IEA's 400 million barrel oil release is an extraordinary measure, and it will only last so long. The economic clock is ticking. As Saudi Aramco's CEO warned tonight, if this goes on for a long time, the entire global economy will feel it. We are 12 days into a war that began on February 28th and has already claimed more than 1,700 lives across Iran, Lebanon, Israel, and the Gulf states. It has displaced nearly 750,000 people, threatened the world's most critical oil corridor, and introduced a new and untested supreme leader to one of the Middle East's most powerful states. The Middle East and the world is holding its breath. We will be here all night with updates as they come in. I'm Henry. Stay with us.